I got you all this time, didn't I? Yeah, I didn't throw all those videos up like I normally do. Hello, this is RJ Carter, General Manager here at CriticalBlast.com, Chief Envelope Licker for Critical Blast Logistics, myopic proofreader for Critical Blast Publishing, and I do answer the phones for your Critical Blast consulting needs for your IT. So, yeah, that's us. As Wordsworth said, I contain multitudes. So, tonight we are veering away from the crowdfunding world. We're going to go back into the world of novel writing, and this one's a fun one. I took a look at this gentleman's work, and I think that you all are going to enjoy this. Please welcome with me to the audience tonight, Mr. Roy Griffis. Griff, how are you today?
I'm great. Glad to be here with a fellow, if I may say, without being pejorative, a fellow geek.
Yes, geeks and authors. It's a unique little cliquish crowd. Of course, the problem I have is that the books I write aren't supposed to be driven by IT, and when I have to save the world with the destroyer, unfortunately, all the stuff that I can think of that would ruin it is something I would program.
Okay.
So the computers always come into it, but yeah, you're a computer guy too. So,
like you, I do it to keep me off the streets, keep me from being a burden to society.
Yeah.
Food for the cat, pay the mortgage, all the usual things.
Yeah, I remember the first time I got laid off was from my very first job, contract work. You know how that goes. I put a sign in the back of the car window that says "We'll program for food." Of course, back then it was all COBOL, but.
And we're in the banking industry, and apparently COBOL is a thing now with, some really old systems that are still used, which is kind of scary. I mean, they're older than some of your viewers, and they need COBOL programmers.
Oh, what was going back 23 years now, which puts us at 1999, which was an auspicious year for COBOL programmers, where everybody's worried about that year 2000 bug. The story was that some guy had a nervous breakdown and just built himself a cryo chamber and said, I'm going to go in here, I'm going to sleep out the next year and wake up when this problem's all solved. And there was a Y2K bug with the timer. So he didn't wake up until 1,000 years later. And he steps out of the chamber, and there's a giant crowd of people cheering him, and there's balloons and ribbons and streamers. He's like, what is all this? They're like, oh, you've been asleep for 1,000 years. We've been waiting for you to come out of here. He's like, why? They said, it's the year 2999, and your resume says you know COBOL. Yeah, if you're not a geek, you won't get it. But
yeah. But we're glad to have COBOL programmers, really, kids. Just trust us on this one. We're professionals.
Yes, well, like Ghostbusters, of course.
Right.
But somewhere along the way, you decided rather than writing procedures and loops, you wanted to get into writing chapters and plots.
Man, that was well before I was doing procedures. I started writing when I was about 10, and I started writing when I was 7. I just didn't realize that at the time. But I decided to be a writer when I was 10, just sort of a bad family situation, and I was already a voracious reader, and I found a paperback copy of Edgar Rice Burroughs, that
you
guy.
Say Princess of Mars.
Yeah, Princess of Mars. That's what Valentine Books paperback.
Yes.
Right. And this was, it would have been like 1969. And I knew the name Edgar Rice Burroughs because my dad and I used to watch the Johnny Weissmuller Tarzan movies. And he's the one who told me that stories were actually created by people. They just didn't spring from the heads of the gods. Although that's actually what I think happens. But he's, so I knew the name. I went, oh, Edgar Rice Burroughs, this looks kind of fun and, adventure-y. And I dropped a quarter on it. And, like 10, 12 hours later, I look up from the book. I come back from Mars, a changed man. And this was like my one religious experience in my life, was realizing this is magic. This is awesome. I want to do this. And, I've been on the cult ever since.
Yeah, Princess of Mars was one of my. I didn't get to read that one until much later, but I was reading. Well, I got into reading from comic books, which is why the show is the way it is. But I was reading before I went to kindergarten, and nobody knew it, um, and I didn't tell anybody because I just thought everybody could. It's like, yeah, you read. That's letters on the thing. You put them together in your head, and you read. It wasn't until I was in first grade that they found out I could read, because I wasn't paying attention to the teacher, and she got sarcastic with me and said, "Would you like to read this big thing to the class that I'm reading?" And I did. So it was like, out the door with you. Good times. But yeah, it was like when I did read A Princess of Mars, I was writing already for websites, and I had to say, hey, am I the only person who's discovered this book? And realized that he was a strange visitor from another planet with powers and abilities far beyond those of the natives that were there, with the ability to leap tall buildings in a single bound, and came out before Superman.
Yeah. It's just a mere, what was that, like, 16 years before Superman?
Yeah.
Well, Superman was what, 38, 39? So yeah, it would have been more like 25 years. But yeah. 1912.
Between John Carter, Philip Wiley's character in Gladiator, and Doc Savage, there were 3 Supermen that came out first.
Yeah. I mean, the Doc Savage also, I'm in awe of those guys. Those pulp guys, like the Lester Dent was the actual writer's name, right? Not Kenneth Robeson, but Lester Dent was a machine. The way he wrote, and some of that stuff. It was very readable. I mean, clearly has its limitations today, but it's no different than TV. I mean, you're going to see the same set of stock characters on an episodic TV show, and these guys did the same thing. But man, those guys cranked.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it was just like, that you had to put one out every month or every 2 months, because it was, and I think Lester Dent was an office of people, because there were so many ghostwriters writing under his name once he got it.
Yeah.
We do have people in the chat listening to us. I want to say hello to Robert Roberts, who says, "Hail Lord Xenu and hail Princess Xena, our true saviors." I will definitely give my body to Xena. I might give my soul to somebody else.
There would be some sacrifice. Not involved at all for that.
Studio 38 or 3. Yes, 38. Sometimes I think it's 3B, but that's just because I'm old and my glasses are out of focus. Prescription ran out on them. Having taken only one high school course on Q Basics, sadly the Cobalt joke was lost on me. Don't worry about it. You're if you don't understand Cobalt, it just means you're a sane person. So when did you move from Edgar Rice Burroughs to Howard Phillips Lovecraft?
Well, probably about the time I hit high school. I mean, I burned through every Burroughs I could get my hands on, and then it was some Doc Savages. And by then I started probably the Heinleins. I mean, I'm sure it's a typical progression. Burroughs, Bradbury, Heinlein. Although I didn't really see the real power of Bradbury until I got a little older. But Heinlein, the young adults, and then the Glory Road and Starship Troopers, and then
the Juveniles.
What's that?
The Juveniles series that he did?
Yeah. Poldo Kane of Mars is, I don't even know how to pronounce the name. All that stuff. Have Spaceship Will Travel, the Rolling Stones. And so I also got a real love of film when I was younger. The Universal black and white horror movies, and The Wolfman and Lon Chaney Jr. and that stuff. And so Lovecraft kind of was in that vibe, so I started reading him, and I remember reading the first short story, The Call of Cthulhu, and it was actually like nothing I'd ever read before at the time. And I'm like, wow, where did this guy get this shit? And
they were autobiographies.
I'm sure it's on the ground reporting, but. So I read some of it, and then at a certain point, I mean, I like the 20s and 30s stuff, sort of the heyday of pulp, when they were like, killing each other off. Hey, Robert Bloch killed me off in his story. I'm going to make him the professor who gets crushed by the 30-story tall gastropod or whatever it was.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, because authors were horrible to each other. Well, even before that era, one of my favorite literary criticisms, is written by Mark Twain, and he's criticizing James Fenimore Cooper's the Deerstalker,
right.
or Leather Stockings, as he would call it.
Right.
And he would talk about how, and our hero Leather Stockings falls into a cave, and we spend 3.5 pages talking about, and it was so dark that he couldn't see his hand in front of his face nor his feet because the pitch blackness just surrounded him, and it was like being in hell, and it was like overtook his mind because there was absolutely no visuals. And then the very next paragraph, and he looked.
That's
So,
right. I remember, what was that called? The Literary Crimes of Fenimore Cooper or something like that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, but so it was weird. I kind of enjoyed the pulp 30s stuff. Probably anything up through the 50s, early 60s. But then I don't know. I apparently don't have a rarefied literary taste. Once they became like serious about serious stuff.
Oh.
I mean, you're gonna have serious stuff in there, but man, it's got to be some fun somewhere. But if it was just like grinding, unremitting seriousness, The Moment God's Eye was serious, but at the same time it was fun, and it was interesting, and it was original. But it wasn't, a polemic, and it wasn't. It wasn't like
terrible.
Yeah, it's just
how we're supposed to live or something.
The guy had the people had some points to make, but they weren't. It wasn't like watching a Commedia dell'arte where the guys run out with the inflatable pig's bladder and start beating you with it, saying, "This is the message. You will enjoy the message." Like, no, man, that's not for me. So
there was a science fiction book I read. I was in junior high when I was gifted a box of Andre Norton books. Mm-hmm. So I was into the Jargoons part and Dragon Dust and stuff like that. But there was one that wasn't Andre Norton that I think, where they were on the quest to find God, and they found him. He's on this distant planet. He's dying, and he's he basically bequeaths the power of God onto the guy who finds him. Only the guy showed up with a woman, and the woman's like, well, are you going to do this? Are you going to do that? Maybe you should do this. It's like, are you after my job?
I haven't seen that one. Well, yeah, I mean, then people like Philip Jose Farmer, who was a really interesting cat, and he when he did his Lord of the Trees, and he did Doc Caliban, man, he just went for it. He just went way out.
Yeah. Did you ever dig into his Wold Newton theory?
Wait a minute. Did he write was that his Lord Byron sort of character?
Wold Newton was his theory that there was a meteor that crashed in the area of Wold Newton in Great Britain, and it was radioactive, and it changed people. And he's got this entire family tree of all these people that were affected. And it goes from Sherlock Holmes to Tarzan to Doc Savage.
Right. I'm getting that out. Was the Shadow in there? I mean,
yeah, everybody was in there. Which like, and he's like, yeah, all these clever people were this way because they were interrelated, and they all track back to this.
I kind of remember that. I mean, again, if it was too science fiction without being a good story, I just wouldn't hang. I just couldn't. But yeah, sometimes I just, some of the weirdest stuff I've read was, I mean, outside of the Lovecraft stuff, was some of Jose Farmer's basically soft porn at the time. He was doing that Harlan Ellison thing. Harlan Ellison talking about it. Said, man, sometimes to make the rent, you had to pound out, I think we called him a spanker or something, just some soft core suggestive paperback, probably witless paperback, and I think
sometimes I never had to get past the covers.
yeah, I guess. So, but anyway, yeah, I've read a lot of that stuff, and so I guess the point of that was I enjoy the sort of the original stuff a lot more than the serious stuff. Hey,
Look at that. This is folks. This is RoyMGriffis.com. It's a subpage of it. I've kind of traveled around a little bit on it. Check out the link below the video, by the way. Whether you're watching now or you're watching later, it will take you right to this website. You can check out all of Griff's books over here. This being the latest one, the Auditors of Doom. Now, this is the series Cthulhu Amalgamated, or has it changed to Cthulhu Incorporated, or?
No, it's Cthulhu Amalgamated. Here, let me be that guy. I'm going to share the screen for a second, see if I can find. What? Okay. This is going to be, gee whiz.
And Studio 38, who's been here for several of our shows, is a fan who has already been reading the book. So,
yeah,
right down to the afterward.
He's a good cat. I know him through,
It's a small internet.
It is a small internet, especially if you're following.
Yeah. And speaking of good cats, we've got Alan Dunford out here, the co-creator. I'm sorry, I don't want to keep it all on you, Alan. Co-creator of Pocus Hocus. Issue 4 will be launching very soon here.
Okay. Yeah. No, this is actually book 2 in the series, and book 3 is coming out July 1st. Let me give you. I'm learning your control system here, so sorry, folks.
It's a little tricky. You don't have any videos with sound on it, so you don't have to worry about the bigger trick. Now it's just a share.
Yeah, let me see. All right, so do that. There we go. This is the cover of book 1, Thing from HR, and that's where the whole thing begins. And let me see, sounds. And there's the reason I show you this is the guy who does my artwork. He's genius, man. I mean, the stuff he does. One of the things I'm going to eventually do on my webpage is create a page of just the artwork, because the guy has so many terrific details. Like this here is actually an important clue about some stuff that goes on in the book. And personally, the face he does on my hero Narg just slays me. So he made to me that sums up my guy's whole experience.
That it is a cool looking character. It's so cool looking that it's almost a shame that you only see him one time in an entire novel. It's like, have you ever thought about having these things adapted into graphic novel formats?
Oh, I'd be open to that. Hell, I'm trying to get some audiobooks done too. Yeah. And fortunately, I mean, like our homie Studio 38, he really believes in the project. So, as you know, one of the struggles about being, especially self-published and indie published writer, is getting people to know the stuff's out there. Yeah. So,
Well, we've got people watching now. So we've got Hex Allen is in the chat. Hello, Hex. Glad you're here, man. So give us all the elevator pitch then of what Cthulhu Amalgamated is all about.
Dang. Okay.
We've got almost an hour. You can take your time.
I was not prepared. During the headlights. Well, the elevator pitch is, what is a nice shuggoth like him doing in a dump like this? Narg was content working as a Damnation Services 10 in HR for Cthulhu Amalgamated. Sure, his uncle was a minor elder thing and an executive in the amalgamation, but a little nepotism never hurt anybody.
No.
And Narg's life was all wailing and gibbering right up until the time his uncle needed a favor. All Narg had to do was go down to Earth among the hairless apes and pretend to be one of them.
That's a little hard to do.
Not apparently if you're these guys. He is given this vague mission by his uncle, who he's known officially as the blithering excrescence from beyond the stars, but among Narg and his secretary, he's referred to as beef bits. And he wants Narg to go check out what those clever hairless apes are up to. And the reason Narg gets this gig is that about 400 years ago, as humans measure time, he got a minor in human studies from Miskatonic U, the satellite office.
Which is where you go once you graduate from Miskatonic High.
Totally, of course. Yeah, he was a legacy. That's how he got in. But yeah, so he's sort of like the only person who takes humans personally. He works in HR, which is actually called human restraint in the amalgamation. So yeah, he gets sent down to Earth. He's supposed to meet a native guide there, and Studio 38 would tell you hijinks ensue. How's that for an elevator pitch?
I like it. You know, not having read it, and I'll qualify that with a yet, the elevator pitch you gave me puts me very much in mind of C.S. Lewis's Screwtape Letters.
Huh. I can see that a little bit. Yeah, sure.
I mean, obviously Screwtape Letters was very serious, and it did have its comedic moments, but it had a point to it, naturally.
It did. Yeah, it was the Lewis pig splatter there. Yeah. So the idea, it's just kind of give you the backstory. And it's like started writing short stories when I was 10. I think when I was 12, I started a terrible fan fiction John Carter ripoff, which was ghastly. Unfortunately, no copies survived. But I started writing short stories a little more seriously, and I tended a little bit toward the genre stuff, and this is back in the day, which you will recall, maybe some of our other viewers, when you actually would type these things up and throw them in an envelope, mail them off to a publisher, and wait for the rejection slip to come back to you.
Every line written ended with a ding and a zip.
Yeah. You're going to tempt me to go get this typewriter I just got, because I really got a 1927 typewriter to go with this 1937 house I live in, because I had one when I was, right after high school, and I was nostalgic for it, because this is the last place I'm ever going to live. My dad was in the Air Force, I was in the Coast Guard, moved so many times, and I'm never moving again. I said, well, if I'm never moving again, I might as well make my office the way I want. But then I drifted into plays, one-act plays, won some awards there. Did some Coast Guard, jumped out a few helicopters for the Coast Guard, got my Errol Flynn on, which was a lot of fun. And I'd always loved movies. Once I realized movies also were magic to me, because at the time, you could be like 500 people sitting in a darkened building together, and with a good movie, a Star Wars, an Indiana Jones, Citizen Kane, whatever, you could all have like a similar shared experience. You could laugh together, you could cry, you could gasp. And I thought, man, that's the closest thing we can get to a shared dream. So I also thought that was pretty powerful, naturally. So from plays, I went to working on screenplays, and I actually worked in Hollywood for about a year. And pretty much every story you hear about Hollywood is true. It was, I lived the complete cliche in that I sold a TV movie to Fox, and then they fired the vice president who bought the project. They took his drawer, they dumped everything out, so they went my project. Oh, and I was a single dad. Yeah. A single dad, and I said, well, okay, I gave it a good shot, but the kid needs like health insurance and toys and clothes. So, and I was glad I tried, and because I'd much rather die knowing I tried than wishing I tried. And it was the same thing with the rescue story. I was a drama geek in high school. I was like 160 pounds, dripping wet, and joined the Coast Guard, looking for my rite of passage. I just didn't know it at the time, and ran across this new school they were opening up. And I'm reading like this, this message about it, teletype message actually, and they're saying it's the second toughest school in the Navy. It was so new, the Coast Guard didn't have their own school. So I said, wow. And, at the time, only the SEALs was tougher. Like, there's my challenge. I'm going to do that. And it was kind of that thing, since I'd never done that, I never played sports, and, when I was a kid or any of that kind of stuff. So, but I said, I would rather try and know that I tried than wish I tried. So I did it, and I survived, and it was a good time. But did the same thing with screenwriting, I wrote some good stuff, and then had another midlife crisis when I was 40, which helped me a lot. But yeah, that's when I started working PCs, because I said, yep, the making a living as a writer at this point in time is not in my tarot cards. Still, I like to eat too, so I took some night classes. I substitute taught during the day, and I took some classes at night. Got some PC stuff. And went and joined the corporate world, and I've been doing that for about 20 odd years. But I kept writing, and so I wrote this 6-volume historical fiction series, about 1,500 pages, 500,000 words, and people like it a lot. But it's really serious, and there's a lot of research involved, and I'm proud of it.
Serious. I was going to ask you about By the Hands of Men, because I'm looking at the covers going across here. I'm like, oh, these look like they're historical, biographical tales here.
Right. Yeah. It started out with just an idea. Somebody told me, an English lady who was doing the set design on one of my plays. We were talking one day, and she told me a story that her grandfather had told her. So she's a certain age, and then he's age, and the story was, he said, the worst thing about being in the trenches in World War I, which that's saying a lot. There's a worst part of that experience, was listening to the wounded horses scream and not being able to do anything about it. And that became the beginning of this 6-book series. Something about that image. Most of my writing comes from a question or any kind of like, how could somebody listen to that and not do something about it, or try, or why did whatever. They'll just be whatever the question is. How come? What if? Why didn't they? And that often just takes me off in all kinds of directions. But that's where most of my writing starts. But I have a lot of those kind of questions that all float around. But that became the pretty much the genesis for this book series, which I still haven't got to the end I had in mind. So I wrote that, and it was a lot of work. But finally, when the books were all done, people started responding to it, and they've been really kind. And if any of you guys out there are writers, yes, it would be nice if I had Hollywood money. We all agree, I still have the dreams of going to Hollywood and having some starlet rub coconut oil in my bald spot, right? But I wrote for free, for years, decades. I'll keep writing for free. But the coolest part about being a self-published author, an indie author, is the emails I get from people, the messages. I get messages on Facebook from people who say some really kind things. I've gotten emails from Australia and Canada, England, people who've read the books first, and they're really nice about how much they like the books, and I just like to know about people's lives. I mean, heck, me and Robert were talking before the show, and I was interviewing him because I just like to know about how people got where they got, and I, for instance, just one example here, I correspond with some 86-year-old lady in Australia who was a personal assistant to Peter Cook in swinging London in the late 60s.
Oh, wow.
That's before many of you, but Peter Cook and Dudley Moore, who you may know from the movie 10 and some other things, were this comedy team. and Peter Cook became a Shakespearean director and stuff. But she had these great stories, and so I get to hear about other people's lives. I get to interact with them, but people just out of nowhere will tell me how great my book is and how much, it moved them. And if I'm not going to get paid, I'll take that. I mean, that is really cool.
That's one of the things I love about doing interviews, which I've been doing for multiple websites for years, is getting to hear these stories. And then, of course, I'm being the writer. I hadn't been published by anybody at this time. And I was working at a bank when my second book was published, and they found out that, oh, you're being published. Why are you still here? Because we all get Stephen King checks, right?
Yeah.
I got to interview, and thankfully this was one that I did recorded on tape. I got to interview Thurl Ravenscroft, who the voice of Tony the Tiger.
No.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. It was Jim Carrey's The Grinch movie was coming out, and I said, I want to talk to Thurl Ravenscroft because he sang "You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch" and got no credit for it at the time. The DVDs have changed that since then. But talking with him, when you're talking with a voice actor, how much about Tony the Tiger and Grinch can you talk about other than how Dr. Seuss pulled him out of the aisle with Chuck and said, "Hey, Boris can't sing. Take this and go." And he said, "I did 5 minutes work and I left." But he was in the Army Air Force. He was one of the first people in the Army Air Force, and he flew the plane that took Winston Churchill to the Yalta Conference.
Oh, damn.
I was like, is anybody writing your memoirs, sir?
Yeah. Totally.
He sang.
Yeah.
He sang backup for Elvis Presley in some of his films.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I love stories like that. It's kind of that reminder to me. Just as a kind of a human being, that all of us there's so much more of us than what actually appears. And it was just kind of reminder. People have these whole lives we know nothing about. Some of them are great stories. Some of them are sad stories. I was after I got out of the Coast Guard, I went to college in Arizona because I couldn't afford to go where I wanted, but my parents had a spare room. I said, okay, I'll take it. And I ended up being on their bowling team, which was great because I got to interact with my parents as an adult, which had been sort of denied to me because as soon as I got out of high school, they left the country and they were overseas for a while. And then I was in the Coast Guard. But there was this little old guy, small, older gentleman, nice fella, who was among the bowlers, and we'd all be sitting there drinking beer and talking. Same deal, I'm just kind of shooting the breeze with this guy, and I found out, hey, Critical Hex, hey, Mike, hey, everybody. I found out this guy was one of the people who was part of a major bridge crossing in the Korean War under an absolute shitstorm of fire. This amphibious guys, they had to cross under fire, build a bridge, and then go up go up a cliff, basically. I'm looking at this guy going, damn. But yeah, Tony the Tiger, this old dude who had needed a spare pickup just to carry his balls in. Yeah. So good story, but yeah. So many stories. But we digress.
We're supposed to be talking about Cthulhu Amalgamated, and okay, so the website says available now, Cthulhu Amalgamated Book 2, The Auditors of Doom. Nard is working for, is he still working for Cthulhu Amalgamated, or is he in an office building on Earth being a human?
No, he was recalled to the home office, and the Auditors of Doom, or somebody he has to answer to for expenditures, on Earth. And then he actually, in human restraint, he doesn't have much to do because typically the people end up there are usually there by accident. They have a whole other department for the people who volunteer to go show up in this area. So, but it's any organization. That's part of the joke, is that I was imagining the Cthulhu guys, and any big organization. Thanks, FrogG, you're my man or my girl, whatever. any large organization's got to have somebody taking care of, travel expenses and payroll and, buying the toilet paper or whatever it is. And everybody's like Cthulhu. Well, they got to have some kind of organization, they just really aren't out there. So I just came up with this. And so, yeah, he has auditors, he has people he has to report to, but he encounters one of these mislaid humans in his area of human restraint, and he's trying to calm this person down, and he's being warned. It's almost like Hamlet's father's ghost sort of thing, saying there's something terrible going on back there. And Narg is like a lot of us in that he's a little insecure, about his abilities and things, and he's not as smart as he thinks he is, but he's got a much bigger heart than he expects. So when he hears just something terrible going on, but he wants to sort of prove himself, since maybe the last mission didn't go as perhaps as everybody hoped. So he figures out a way to get himself back to wherever this person came from, and he goes back to Earth. And so yeah, that's just the beginning. The auditors are sort of the beginning of this whole next mission.
Right, and the new one, that's the one that's coming out in, I want to say July, but
July 1st, yeah.
July, that's right around the corner. That's the Break Room of 1,000 Nightmares.
That's the one. It's
okay,
so I don't have a cover to show you yet.
I have a cover. It's not finished, but where did I put that at?
I think it is on the banner. So.
It is on the banner. There, I couldn't see it in the little postage stamp size here. So this is this one's a deviation from before because there are gray aliens involved now. So we've gone from sort of a supernatural, otherworldly dimension to other planets, or so it would seem. And
yes, but you'll have
Narg's
to,
a big guy.
Sir?
Narg is a big guy here.
Yeah, well, we're seeing him in more of his natural Shuggoth state. You look at the first cover in the upper left there. He is taller than the humans, but he points out he's put on a few tons since college. But who hasn't, as he says?
Yeah, it's so before I do get into questions about the break room, FrogG has very kindly out in the chat stated that RJ has a campaign. Yeah, we talk with people who have campaigns all the time, and now we have one.
Cool.
You know that Critical Blast Publishing is doing a new anthology. It's already available on Amazon, by the way. The Devil You Know Better. It's the follow-up to the one we did 2 years ago, The Devil You Know. But our campaign is for a signed and limited hardcover, and it goes a little something like this.
We've crossed paths more than once. I've whispered in your ear, shown you harmless little temptations. I am unknowable, yet you know me intimately. But you can always know me better. Collected here are 20 twisted tales that will thrill, chill, incite, and delight you from some of the most imaginative minds your species has to offer. This exclusive Indiegogo printing of The Devil You Know Better will be limited and numbered, with signatures from Mike Barron and Hart D. Fisher. Stretch goals achieved for this campaign will add interior chapter illustrations by Stefano Cardacelli. The Devil You Know Better. Back it on Indiegogo today, while you still can.
And yes, believe it or not, that is me doing the voiceover on that, thanks to wonderful World of Technology assisting me.
No, that was great. And by the way, FrogG, could you put up the link maybe in the comments there?
It is right there in the comments. It's the last one. Of course, you won't be able to see them through StreamYard. You'll have to see them on YouTube.
Okay, great. I'll check that out. That was great. And again, FrogG, thanks for putting up my my website there.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah, FrogG is one of our wrenches in the chat, as they call it. So he has the godlike ability to put clickable URL links out there that people can click on and follow. So he is a frog of all seasons.
Wow.
We were going into the break.
I mean, I'm going to start reading these nice comments here for myself, but I'll save that for later. I just realized when I was telling that long story about, you know, writing the 500,000 words and all that, because so I finally get it. You know, people are starting to respond. I got a book pub, and a lot of people read it, and so you know all the other stuff happened, which is nice. But that was a lot of work, and then let's see, probably right around that time, my first high school girlfriend died unexpectedly and tragically, and I took that kind of hard. She was my first love, first fan. We stayed in touch over the years, and she was always asking, bless her heart, she's like, wanted to know what I was doing. She's always telling me how the stuff I did was so much better than the crap she saw on TV or the movies. So, we all need something like that. And so that like I said, kind of kicked in my slats a little bit unexpectedly. And then my mom died 6 months later. So I couldn't write a thing for a year, man. I was useless in so many ways. But the impulse was there, but I started coming back to life, and I said, man, I want to write something, but I can't write anything serious. And that's when I had the Cthulhu Amalgamated idea, and I told myself, I'm just gonna go as goofy as I feel. I do serious pretty well, and I'm okay with a quip, but I didn't know if I could sustain it for a novel, much less 3 books. Some people think I have, but yeah, I just told myself I'm not going to censor myself, other than, what the difference is between Richard Pryor and Eddie Murphy. Richard Pryor can be incredibly profane, but he can be profound.
Yeah.
The rest of these guys, they're just profane. It's like junior high school level humor for the most part. But anyway, I didn't want to fall into that, and I'm certainly not comparing myself to Richard Pryor, who I met once, but that's a whole other story.
Oh, cool. He won't care.
Yeah, he won't care. But I just said I'm going to write something goofy, and I'm just going to go for it. And some people will appreciate it. I'm just going to humble brag here for a minute. I'm going to steal Studio 38, where he says I'm one of the only people he's seen get horror comedy right, and Cthulhuian that's too easy. Yeah.
I can click on stuff.
Oh, good. Well, anyway, so but yeah, I just had to write something like not just 180, like 270 away from what I've been doing. Now I gotta let the cat out.
Of course. I can hear her asking for the door to be opened.
Yeah, otherwise it's on.
Yeah. FrogG has his own campaign coming up too, which will be launching in September on the 17th. So folks, be sure to go hit the pre-launch page and register your email address so that he knows how many people are interested in his project, gives him an idea of when he can launch and what he can set his expectations at. So yeah, I mean, taking something like Cthulhu, which, there wasn't even a snide remark of humor in any of the H.P. Lovecraft stuff when you read it.
Well, not intentionally, no. Yeah.
Yeah, not intentionally, but taking that and making humor out of it, it's sort of like when Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett made a comedy out of the apocalypse with Good Omens.
Right.
It had that very profound stuff in it, and also was very comedic and was very a lot of scary stuff happening. My favorite bit is the Crowley going to Aziraphale, the angel, and saying, hey, yeah, the apocalypse it's on for next Tuesday. And he's like, yeah, well, this is what we've been working for, right? He's like, yeah, you don't understand. There's a big difference between working towards something and it actually arriving.
Yes. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. And I mean, I like to create a challenge for myself when I write. And I think my challenge was, how can I make this this character relatable without without cheating, but also without anthropomorphizing him too much.
Yeah.
What do we got? Was it Mary Sue, Marty Stu, Nardy Nard? I didn't want to do that. I didn't want it to be all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah. And as it went on, I realized, it can still be funny, but it can also maybe still be a little bit about something, because I like people when they read my stuff, and you probably feel the same way. As I wanted to go on this, because we have that pulp in our blood, man. But I want them to get a ripping yarn first. If there's not a good story that they find compelling or that holds their attention, then we've wasted everybody's time, as far as I'm concerned. Now, if I can slip in a few things to think about without beating people over the head about it, that's just gravy. But yeah, first it's just got to be a good story, and it's sort of, I'm a plot guy. I do not read things for the beauty of the language. I don't care. I'm more interested in the story. And I mean, this even goes to the music I listen to. I'm a slow learner. I only recently realized I don't like songs that are just basically about boinking. It's like, come on, there's no challenge there. But songs that tell a story in an interesting way, I will listen to all the time.
Oh yeah, I could put Jim Croce on repeat all day long and just
something like that. Yeah. Jackson Browne. All those guys, America, but all kinds of country. Just that's why I listen to it. So, but things like Gut Bucket Blues, I can't stand, because the themes are basically, let's see, I beats her, I cheats her, and now my baby's gone, and I'm so sad. You're an idiot. Why am I don't want to listen to you. I don't spend any time with you. So. But again, if I can write something that's kind of fun and interesting and keeps people's attention, then I feel like I've succeeded in some way. But at the same time, I don't want to write something that is going to make somebody feel worse about themselves or their lives. I mean, I don't have to necessarily be a message of, help old ladies across the street or something like that, or tithe, pay your taxes, whatever. But I don't want people to come away feeling diminished by what they read.
Sure. Do you have a grand plan for Cthulhu Amalgamated? Like, I'm working towards the end of that 7th book, because Septa, whatever it is the new trilogy.
No, I didn't have a plan for a 2nd book or a 3rd book. I don't know how you get your ideas for your books. I told you about, I had that one idea of that one image, more than an idea, the image of the trench thing. I discovered my process, at least for novels, you can't do it for screenplays and probably not for comics, because those are kind of like structured in terms of how you have to just physically present it. But for a novel, man, you can just go wild. So I'm what they call a pantser. I write with the seat of my pants. I have all these different ideas, and but sometimes one poof. Where I show the other hand because it doesn't look right here. Poof, beginning. Poof. I'm really confusing myself. End. And they line up. If I know where I'm going to start, I fight my way to the end.
Yeah. Yes.
If I don't have either one of those elements, I can't write. But as long as I don't need to know what's in between, because I got that beginning and that ending, I got a book.
You can get there. It's like, California's that way.
Exactly. If you go on a journey without a destination, you might cover a lot of ground, but you'll probably piss off a lot of people in the process. You at least got to have a place you're trying to get to.
Exactly.
So that's how I write. And so when I started By Hands of Men, I thought it was going to be one book. At my beginning, I knew it was going to end. And I'd never really written any novels before. I'd written one other one, but it was sort of a Rashomon thing. So it wasn't a more straight narrative. And so I sat down. Yeah, those are the ones. So when I started writing these novels, people started showing up, things started happening. It was great, but the books kept, the ending kept getting further away. But it was kind of cool because I was following these characters, and it all starts to sound, wacky. That I
started taking over.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I was possessed pretty much, and I would, I at many points I was just taking dictation, man. It's like I was just reporting on what I was seeing and hearing, and I'm sure you know what that's like.
Oh yeah, I find there's two kinds of stories.
Mm-hmm.
There are Athenas and there are Galateas. The Athenas are just like born fully formed from the brow of Zeus, and there it is, and you can't type fast enough before you forget the whole thing.
Right.
You just write it straight. I did one story like that was a single draft, and it was done, and never happened again. The rest of them are Galateas. You gotta go in there with your hammer and chisel and knock off everything that's not the story.
Totally. Yeah. That's me. I describe it as I fight my way to the end, which is kind of what happens. So, but with Cthulhu Amalgamated, I just sort of I had an idea, and I wrote down like 4 or 5 pages of Narg and his grotto, and it just sort of started happening, and then I got a picture of the end, and I got to the end, and I had surprised myself by this and by how well it turned out, because like I said, I really didn't know if Studio 38, he enjoyed it a lot. He said he laughed for pages at a time, so clearly he gets my idea of humor. And I'd surprised myself by all the stuff I came up with, and especially by Narg's character. And same deal, I spent a couple of nights at a haunted hotel outside the Alamo. At the time we got the reservations, we didn't know it was one of the more haunted places in the state. And I'm pretty convinced it was haunted. In the middle of the night, we were in some weird triangular room, which is always strange myself. It was not really a corner, but it was a triangle. So it was a very strangely laid out room. And middle of the night, big banging coming from the empty bathroom. Okay, that's freaky. So on the ground, right? And then later we hear some woman screaming, "Why are you doing this to me?" And this place had been a mental hospital before. Somebody said, "That's going to be a great place for a hotel."
Yes,
let's do that.
Get homes.
And I mean, it had gargoyles on the outside. This is, I looked at this and I said, okay, there's a story here. And then, in fact, there was a story there.
I'm trying to place it now because I went to an IT convention in San Antonio, and I walked 2 blocks toward the Alamo because they said it's that way, and I expected buildings to disappear, and you're outside town now, and here's desert and cactus, and no, right. The Alamo is wedged between the Ripley's Believe It or Not museum across the street and a mall on the other side of it there.
Right, and then we were absolutely right across the street in the Emily Morgan Hotel. If you guys want to go to an authentically haunted hotel, and I want to go back, by the way, Emily Morgan's the place to go. But yeah, and that was just one of those things. I was first we're hearing about. We learned it sort of after the fact it's haunted. Oh, okay. And our daughter told us this. She went, "Mom, you're staying at the most haunted hotel in Texas." Well, that's kind of interesting. Wasn't the plan, but it's cool. And so then I'm just like looking around. I'm hearing, getting the stories and just starting to see the details. And then poof, I got my second novel. And it was kind of, I finished that. Like, okay, again, saw how the characters developed and what Narg had done for himself in his career, and And then book 3 came to me. Something else I read, I went, oh, really? No, that's pretty cool. I wonder. And then again, they just lined up, and I said, okay, here I am on the journey again.
What WWND? What would Narg do?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
What would Narg destroy? You know, I mean, something like that.
Yeah, when I was in San Antonio, because of this is an author thing here. The other thing on the map they showed was O. Henry's house, and it was like, a ways down. But I'm like, I don't have a car. I'm going to walk it. It's like, go out there to the right, turn right on this street, and just keep going till you get there. Well, I kept going, and I kept going, and I kept going, and the neighborhood became lower and lower in rent. And I was like, okay, it's about time for me to turn around. And as I turned around, I saw across the street police station. I'm like, hey, I know exactly what to do. I went across the street into the police station, and I said, I'm a tourist in town. I understand the O. Henry house is down here somewhere. I would like to stop by it and take a picture. They're like, we have no idea what you're talking about, sir.
Oh,
it's like supposed to be a landmark. And I figured you guys would know. Nope, we have no idea where this is at. So the police station doors were on a corner. You could go in one corner and the other corner, and then the last two walls were wall walls. So I went out the other door that I came in, went to the corner to go back across the street. Across the street, there's this little blue cottage with a little metal sign in the front. I'm like, the place you don't know is across the street from where you are. Don't ever call 911 in San Antonio. They will not find you.
Clearly.
But I found it. It was like 500 square feet of cottage, blue siding. Took my picture. Don't know where it's at anymore because back then it was flip phone, not smartphone. I didn't take the best resolution picture. Anyhow, Narg has a new situation to deal with, and that's the one that's in the break room of the 1,000 Nightmares, also known as, when you go in and find the donuts and learn that they were yesterday's, in the break room. The break room stories I could tell. I'll tell one now that has nothing to do with Cthulhu. There was a section in the break room where whenever a meeting would cater in food or have extra drinks, and it was over, they would put the food there. And, being the scavengers that we are in IT, when we see food there, it doesn't matter if we're hungry or not, we'll put it away for later. Gentleman comes in to service the soda machines that were there, and he takes out all the outdated soda products and he puts them on the counter and goes back to his truck. Oh, you poor fool.
Yes.
He comes back, that thing is empty, and he's asking me where they're at, and I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, I took all the sodas out of this machine. I put them right there. I'm like, you put them right there. Oh, yeah, they're gone. He's like, well, somebody's got to pay for them. I'm like, yeah, send it to the CEO because.
Yep, totally get you. Yeah, IT, man. If it's free food.
Of course, there were probably Cthulhu Nightmares from drinking them because they were outdated. I had one. They were bad.
Rusting through the can.
Yeah, the acid was eating through. But what does Narg find in the break room other than 1,000 Nightmares?
A promotion.
His
uncle has been impressed by his pluck and ingenuity, and Narg has also been helped out by his native guide. There's a whole story behind that, and so he gets a promotion, and but it's probationary, of course. So he gets another little job. His uncle's got a thing about the hairless apes. He goes back, and he ends up spying on CERN.
The cyclotron.
The cyclotron. And again, he's got to figure out why the hell am I here? So that begins it, and it just goes from there.
Okay, I'm in because any story involving CERN, I'm usually there because we know what they're doing. They're opening warps to new dimensions. It's the only thing that it's either that or a black hole to swallow the Earth, and we can't imagine they would possibly be trying to do that on purpose.
Right.
I personally like the theory that says that they've already done it, and we were shunted into an alternate dimension, and that's why the Berenstain Bears is spelled with an A now instead of an E.
Wow.
We remember the E, but by golly, they're all printed with an A.
Interesting. All right.
Yeah, that's that Mandela effect stuff. We all came from the Earth where Sinbad starred in a movie called Shazam about a genie, which apparently never happened.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but yeah, that was it. That's totally it. There's one of the things about the CERN thing that caught me was they said, well, somebody just very casually, what you just said, wait. Well, we're trying to find the God particle, and we might open some doors to other dimensions.
Yeah, exactly.
So casual,
Little interdimensional travel. I had a character in a story one time on a ship called Bosun Higgs. He was in charge of everything. Yeah, you get it. The Higgs boson knows.
Yeah. That particle.
I sometimes get too clever for my own good. So this is going to go straight to Amazon and wherever else you can buy books on July 1st?
I believe so. Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm guessing it's done and sitting with the publisher and printer to just be released, or you still got some beta readers turning things in?
No, I'm trying to get some, pre-reviewers if anyone wants to volunteer. Basically, we're waiting for the cover. I got the artwork done. In fact, my cover artist had stopped doing it. He, like the rest of us, the day job was taking its toll on him, and I kind of kept stalking him a little bit. And he finally said, "Yeah, I got some, I've got some space." So, okay, cool, thank you. So, because I don't know, I just love the way he does an art. The book's been edited, drafted to pieces. Once I get my cover complete, do a few, some test prints, and it's going to be ready to launch.
Very nice. So self-publishing, you do all your formatting yourself?
On the paperbacks, but I have discovered more recently some shortcuts on the ebooks, because ebooks are their own special form of hell.
Oh yes, they are. I've got to get mine formatted too. I'm behind on that one.
Seriously, check out Reedsy.
Okay. Because I don't have the software I've got special fonts and everything. I know that's got to be stripped out. And
try Reedsy for all you guys who are self-publishing. You can do the word stuff pretty easily, but at a certain point, because of all the crap, Reedsy does a pretty good job. Their templates are limited, but it makes it a lot easier. There's a lot of damage to my immortal soul formatting books, especially those first 10 books. But I finally got a little better at it. But Reedsy really made the ebook easy, so I'd say check that out, and it's free.
The thing I find in formatting is that all the manuscripts come in, even the ones I write myself, they come in with the William Shun format. This particular font, this particular line spacing, and this is the buttered toast landing buttered side down rule of formatting books. Those little octophone things that you use to say, hey, we're going to shift a little bit of time now and skip to the next paragraph, and you put that little tic-tac-toe thing there. When you're formatting the book for print, 99 times out of 100, that thing will land at the bottom of a page or the top of a page, where it does not work, and you can't take it out because they'll just read straight through. So you've got to start, kerning four-letter word.
That stuff, they'll give you eye twitch, psoriasis. Everything.
Yeah. And then if you find one that you missed and you change it, guess what? All the ones that you change below, one of them will again end up at the top or bottom of a page. It is painful. And then when you're done with that and you're like, it's all good, and you send it out to be printed, and you're like, now let's do the ebook. Now you got big old gaps of space. You got to go back through and close things up.
Totally damage your immortal soul, because You start making deals that you really wouldn't normally to get this stuff done.
Well, especially when you're writing a book, or editing a book about deals with the devil.
Indeed.
You're like, are you there? It's me, Margaret.
Yes. I'll cut you a break on the royalties, man. Give me a hand here.
Exactly. Let there be some royalties, and you can have some of them. That would be the deal I would make.
Always the goal. Always the goal.
Is Narg doing anything in the back of your head right now that's going to become book 4, or are you going to kind of let him take a sabbatical and decide when he comes out?
Let's see. There are about 15 books I have in my head right now.
There you go.
Then I could write. I got one series of 3 books that I've got figured. I've got another 5 books that's kind of floating around. Some standalones. I got a play I want to write about the making of the movie Casablanca. I want to write a spiritual memoir called God Throws Cars at Me. I mean, I just got this stuff. But I decided, first I was really happy. Basically I got these 3 Narg books out in a year. I got them written in a year. The first 2 were done, and the second one took a little longer to format and whatnot because of life. My wife had her knee replaced, and then it had to be redone, which was just really festive and conducive to all that creative stuff. But I'm taking a break just in the sense of I want to see what the universe is saying I should write next. Because I have a lot of different stuff. I thought maybe I'll just kind of see what Spirit wants me to write. So I'm hoping it happens soon. I'm waiting for the telegram from God, basically, because I realized I made a little itchy. I just realized that today. It's like I'm not writing in the morning. I'm doing some other stuff, detail stuff, right? But it's not the writing. It's not the creative thing that I really enjoy and find fulfilling. So it may happen pretty soon. I mean, I've got 40,000 words, 125 manuscript pages on one of those novels that I actually put aside because I had a contract, and I learned something about myself that I didn't know. It was a 3-book contract. Had to be between 60 and 80,000 words per book, and it was a paranormal type genre. And I discovered I was starting to feel like hemmed in by the word length, because I like to stop my books where they stop.
Yeah.
And I was writing along and getting a little anxious. It's like, oh man, to stop at 80,000 words, I'm gonna have to do some shortcuts of stuff, and it wouldn't have felt organic, and as somebody else said, it wouldn't have felt like I was honoring my creative self. And I know that sounds pompous, and I apologize, but it's true. I just wasn't feeling like authentic, I guess. Fortunately for me, the publishing company was sold, and since I hadn't turned anything in, they said, "Here, man, we'll just tear up your contract. Thanks."
Well, there you go. You're out.
Yeah, I dodged a bullet. But I've been rereading it. I was going, this is kind of interesting and different. Maybe I'll actually go back to work on this. So I don't know what I'm going to do next, man. But I do have some ideas for Narg, and in Studio 38. I'm just letting you know, since you're such a big fan, I do have an idea for at least a book 4.
Cool. We'll be watching for that. Yeah, I've written the formula before where I'm like, I know how. Not only did I know how many words needed to be in the book, but I would sit there and say, okay, that's how many words need to be in the book. The other books in the franchises were like, this many chapters on average. So this number of chapters is going to be my last chapter. And now I know how many words per chapter I need to do, which would tell me like, okay, wrap this chapter up, or, oh, I still got to put more in this chapter. It was, I'm a task list person.
Mm-hmm.
If I've got a task list, I can get it done. If I don't have a task list, and it's like you said, get that destination out there and then bullet point your way to it. If it's just nebulous and open-ended, I'm like, yeah, I'm not even taking the first step yet. I'm just going to think about that nebula.
Yeah, but it's anybody, by the way, out there who are other creative people, you just got to honor your own process and what works for you. But to me, the final the final part of that, you got to still do the work.
Yes.
You figure out what works for you and do the work. Don't be that guy who talks his stories to death.
Oh, that's the worst thing you can do as a writer, everybody, is sit down and tell the story you haven't written to somebody. Because here's what happens is when you do that, and especially the more detailed you get, when it comes down to time to write the thing, your brain is in this process of, we've already done this, let's do something new, even though you haven't typed a single word.
Your brain gets bored. That's a great way to put it, man. Yeah, your brain is like, I know this. There's nothing exciting and interesting here for me. Let's go try out for a play or something. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Right. So, think at the keyboard. Don't think the whole book through in your head ahead of time. Worst thing you could do. Know where you're going, and then figure out how you're gonna get there while you're writing it.
And don't tell anybody. Damn it.
Don't tell anybody. Yeah. Words out loud. You can think it in your head, but you talk about doing a spiritual book. I thought about doing that one time and realized I was nowhere near qualified. But I wanted to do something called For Crying Out Loud, which was on the emphasis of why we pray out loud and not alone in our heads. It's not because God can't hear it. It's because you want everybody else, not every people, to hear it, but all the other spiritual elements to hear it. Let them know what you're doing and that you're calling for help and that it's coming. Because no one knows the heart of man but God. Therefore, demons and other spirits can't read your thoughts. They can put thoughts in there, but they can't tell what you're thinking. From what I've been told scripturally, I could be totally wrong. I have no theological degree. But where was I going with this? I have no idea.
We're just talking about writing, man. That's all.
It's the journey, and I'm lost now.
You will find your way.
I will find my way. And I'm so glad that you found your way onto our show tonight. Would love to have you on again to talk about writing some more, especially since you're writing in a realm which we could call horror, we could call science fiction. I think we'd love to get you on as a guest for our Blast from the Bunker series, which is Critical Blast and sci-fi4me.com have merged. Every 2 weeks we simulcast on both our channels. Jason Hunt from Sci-Fi for Me, who has a show called Blast from the Bunker, one of the shows there, Live from the Bunker. We become Blast from the Bunker when we Wonder Twin powers combine it. Right. And we just have on one interesting guest for an hour-long conversation.
I'll see if I can find one for you.
Okay, well, I appreciate it. Just email, send me their email addresses.
Studio 38 guy is working for me. You may want to give him a shout.
You might owe him royalties. Yeah, we did the first Blast in the Bunker. We had on Howard Scott Warshaw, the one of the developers from Atari back in the day.
Okay.
As it's titled, "How I Made History by Killing an Industry," because he developed E.T.
That's great.
We're going to have on Paradigm Research. We're going to have I'm not going to try to say the guy's name, but it's in 2 weeks. We're going to have the second issue of the show. We'll be talking with Paradigm Research about the truth embargo and what the Pentagon knows about UFOs. So this is where we talk about the fun stuff in writing and creating, and we get a little weird. So,
man, sign me up. That sounds great.
All right. Well, we will definitely touch base with you then, because by the time we have an open episode, it'll be July, and you'll have a book. So
works for me. And man, please send me a link to that bunker thing about the Paradigm. That sounds awesome.
I'll do that. Griff, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. It's been a blast talking with you. Yes, that's my line, I know, but I truly mean it. About your books.
Well, I appreciate your time, and it's been fun. It's always, fun to talk to people who understand, what I'm talking about. My wife, bless her heart, she read, Cthulhu Amalgamated, but I don't know if she's ever read Lovecraft in her life.
Not the audience that you were.
Yeah, not the target audience. She writes Christian romance, so this was a stretch for her, but she read it. Yeah, man, no, it was fun, and I appreciate you having me on, and the kind words from the live audience.
We have one of the best chats in the industry. I think the people who come in here always have good things to say. And if you're watching this on the replay, the link to Griff's website is right below. You can find the books there. I'm going to add some edits to that as soon as this is over, so we can get some direct Amazon links to the books that he has out there. So you can just click the ones you want, click one of them, and then you can just kind of go. Amazon will direct you around to the rest of them. That's probably the easiest way to do it. Everybody in the chat, thank you so much for showing up tonight. As I always say, we don't have a show if you're not here to watch it. We're just a podcast falling in the woods. And as always, while you were here, we just hope you had a blast. Good night.